Co-Opinions. My name is Josh, and today we're going to be doing a 2-year retrospective of Pokemon Go. We have a full house here today with Kara.
Hello.
Mike.
Hey.
And Chris.
Yo.
So it will be about 2 years since Pokemon Go came out when this is released. So we thought we would talk about how far it's come with all the people I know who play it the most, because we actually have one person here who's level 40.
Oh, yeah.
And Mike and Kara, what levels are you?
I'm currently 36.
And Kara?
37.
I'm 33. So I'm the baby of the group, but that's fine. I only play because Kara still plays, so this still works. But anyways, first I'd like to talk about the little things that we've noticed in the 2 years since it's come out. Talk about how they've rolled out some functionality. Specifically, let's start back near the beginning. Did Gen 2 come out first? Yeah, Gen 2 came out before rating did, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So, Gen 2 started off an interesting way of rolling out the new generations because they released, the babies the Christmas after the game came out?
Correct. Yes.
What did you guys think of that?
I was excited. It was new Pokemon.
But did you like how it rolled out?
Yeah, it rolled out a little... We had 5 or 6 that you could hatch from eggs.
But I felt like it made it so that way you had, if people didn't have a bunch of incubators, it made it kind of difficult to be accessible, especially since it wasn't a guaranteed baby.
I thought it was actually one way that they were making it more accessible to other people because it was a way of walking around and hatching because they hadn't introduced so many other elements that they have now that it gave rural areas a lot easier way because they didn't have to interact with Pokestops or gyms. All they had to do was walk.
But they had to interact with Pokestops because you couldn't.
Well, you had to get Pokestops, but most of the time you don't have to hit very many Pokestops before you get an egg.
That's valid. Mike, what did you think about the Gen 2 introduction?
I mean, I thought it was fine. I realized that with the Pokemon, they have a limited resource there, so they can't just throw them out at you in big waves, because then they'll just be, empty sack. We have nothing left to give.
Well, and then we'll have an interesting comparison between the Gen 2 and Gen 3 rollout there, because we'll generally blitz past how they introduced it, because I think we might have recorded the first episode about Pokemon Go shortly around this time, because we recorded it shortly after the game came out, but I don't remember how shortly after the game came out. I don't think it was before the Pokemon Go Fest, which is something we will definitely touch upon, because that's when they introduced legendary rating. Other rating was introduced before this, and if you go back to listen to the first episode we recorded, we predicted this is how they were going to do some of the higher tier Pokemon, how they were going to make it easier for you to get Tyrantars and et cetera, with the rating. And then with Pokemon Go Fest, which we'll talk about in depth here in detail, they introduced legendary rating. Now, do you think that rating or legendary rating has added a beneficial social aspect to this game?
100% yes.
Okay, Chris says yes. What do you guys say?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it kind of forces you to be social by the aspect that you can't beat it by yourself. You need at least 5-6 people for most of them.
That's for the legendaries and 4 stars, though, right?
Yes, because I soloed 3 stars.
Okay, I was gonna say once you get up to king level over here, you can solo a 3-star. But
well, some 3 stars are easier to solo than others. For example, I've heard of Shuckle when that was a raid. Yeah. That was impossible to solo.
That defense, man,
because of the defense.
Yep.
But some 3 stars, for example, Absol, I think, was a 3-star.
Absol's a 4-star.
Is Absol?
Yep.
I thought we did a Mawile, Kara.
Mawile's a 2-star.
That's a 2-star.
Yes.
Yeah.
I just got a shiny Mawile a couple weeks ago.
Hey, congratulations.
Oh, yeah.
Now, a problem that I've noticed, so it does force you to be social. The raids do. Have you guys what are some examples of bad experiences you've had with raids? Because I don't want to immediately get salty here. I want to put positive out first, and then maybe lesser negativity before I just come in with the Mortons over here.
Well, I probably have had the most raid experience out of everyone here.
Probably.
So I can tell you the biggest gripe I have with raiding is organization. I'm actually part of a raid group that we formed in my area, and sometimes communication is not very strong. Or they'll say, hey, we're going to meet at 5:20 at the raid, and then we get there, we got about 5 or 6 people, we need 7 or we're good to go, and then somebody says, hey, I'm a couple minutes out, can you wait for me? Normally that's fine, but then when you get like 5 or 6 people saying, hey, I'm a minute or 2 out, please wait for me. Now instead of rating at 5:20, we're rating at 5:30. And some folks don't have that level of time where you can just wait. And so then I know, at least for myself, on more than one occasion, I've had to drop out of a raid because I didn't have the remaining time. Because you got to wait in the lobby for 2 minutes before you actually do the battle. Then the battle can take anywhere from 3 to 5 minutes, depending on the difficulty of said raid. And then you've got to catch it after the fact. So you could be sitting there for 15, 20 minutes at a raid. And if you're trying to do a chain raid where you go and do the first one and then try to catch another one before your lucky egg runs out, or if you have other non-Pokemon Go related obligations, you're kind of stuck unless you're able to convince the rest of the team, hey, we're going to go now. Next wave will come second. And we've had some tweaks to go with that, but in the general aspect, that's been the main gripe is we got a set time. Some folks can't adhere to it or other factors, and it kind of breaks down as it goes down the line.
So what about you guys? Because I know Mike and Kara, you've rated significantly more than me. Not as much as Chris, probably, but
It brings out some of the characters. I remember there was one gentleman in particular that I was convinced was going to wear our skin. He really wanted to wear our skin.
Yikes.
Like,
Now-
he had no notion of personal space.
he's like, you're so soft.
Like, at all. He's like, oh, are you trying to catch that Pokemon? Like, after the raid was over. And was, like, looking over your screen, like, between your face and your screen, looking at your phone. He was weird.
But I mean, any subset of group can have that. This is just that guy.
Yes, but I feel like it's a higher concentration of that guy.
Well, it also forces you to actually be in physical proximity to these people. So it's the difference between a pickup group in World of Warcraft or Final Fantasy XIV, where it's like, these people suck and are weird, bye. And now it's like, these people suck and are weird and are 7 feet away from me. This is not the best. Kara.
Going off what he had to say with the rating, I think one thing that helped me with it was, like Chris said, I found a couple groups that I know I work well with them. I see that they're in it. I can team up and we can go on a raid train and just hit a whole bunch in a row. Nice, organized, and it's great. And I did a lot of the trial and error. Oh, look, there's a group here. Let's wander here. And sometimes, it's nice to be friendly. And I've met some really nice people just showing up and walking around parks and joining in with people. But you do have a lot wider range as opposed to when you're in a group and you know who you're working with, who you're meeting up with. It gives you a little bit more of a safety factor. And plus, it's more organized. You tend to get a lot more in a row in a time, and you can pop your lucky eggs and just go on a run and not have to worry about waiting for everyone.
I've had a fair amount of rating experience because of you guys. And I gotta say, there's basically 2 kinds I've noticed. There's the pickup group where it's a bunch of randos congregated at a place, and that has cultivated some of the purest hate I have ever felt while playing this game. The phrase "everybody back out" fills me with a white hot rage. I hate it so much, especially when the person who's quote unquote running it can't coordinate it whatsoever. So you have to back out like 3 times and you're about to run the timeout. And then the person who you're waiting for never even shows up. There was a while I actually wasn't raiding because there was such a bad string of examples of that. And I am much less committed to this than you guys are. Then the next time we went raiding, that I tagged along, it was a group who was doing this whole chain raid thing that Chris was talking about, and it was the difference between a pickup group and an MMO and a dedicated raiding group. Because we had 7 or 8 people who were like, we're going to this one, then this one, then this one. Got like 4 raids in a row, knocked them all out. That was great. So I'm curious if they're going to do any quality of life improvements that allow for better coordination of these kind of things through the game. Because you see that with EX raids now, where it's like everybody goes here at this point to do a raid. I'm curious if they'll introduce any quality of life functionality now that you have friends, for example, that says, hey, we noticed there's a raid that's going to happen at this point, at this time. Everybody on my friends list, this is where I'm going. And then you can just kind of merge there.
I don't think they're going to do that. And the only reason I say that is because on their social media for Pokemon Go on Niantic, they promote checking with your friends through other channels, like going through a Discord app or going through a Facebook Messenger app to find your friends that are doing activities at this time, like the community days or other special events. I do think that the friends list is awesome. I'm glad they had it, and I love the bonuses that come with it. And I think there will be time that they'll improve upon it, make it a little more accessible, expand on it more. But I don't think they're going to do any type of notifications of like, hey, this raid's starting in 5 minutes and your friend is over there now. Do you want to go? I don't see that coming.
See, I don't think that they will. I don't think the game itself will propagate that out, but I'm curious if you want to send an alert to your friends, if it'll allow you to do that.
So like, that I could see happening.
That is what I could see as a quality of life improvement for that. And going back to listen to the first episode we recorded, we actually guessed a lot of things that they were going to roll out. So I'm curious. I don't think they're going to go full-blown social network with the friends on this one. But I do think that if they have some way to improve connectivity now that they finally rolled out training and created friend lists, I do think they'll try to increase the social aspect of it because of things like community days that have become more popular. But that's a little further in. Let's talk about both how Gen 2 actually rolled out and GoFest because those happened around the same time. When Gen 2 rolled out, they just dropped every Gen 2 Pokemon that wasn't a baby or a legendary immediately out. Do you guys remember what kind of trying to think of a phrase that's not cursing? I
thought it was a fabulous heyday.
Well, that's the thing. It was basically like they exploded a piñata and everybody's like, candy! Oh my god, candy! Because we were running around for the first 48 hours and it was the wild, wild west. You could catch anything in those first 48 hours. Like in the first 3 hours, we saw a Meganium just in a park. Like, why is there a Venusaur out? We saw
a Feraligatr.
There was a Feraligatr down off the river. I remember because Kara actually commented, we saw people wandering around with their phone, and I heard them making the Pokemon Go sound. And I go, are you playing Pokemon Go? Yes. Come over here, there's a Feraligatr. She's like, why do people just come to you? Like, probably because I'm brash and loud. That would be my guess. I'm going to let you guys take the reins because I'm sure you were way more into it when it happened. How did you spend the first 48 to 72 hours when Gen 2 officially dropped?
Well, I'm part of a group chat for my area in my town, and the four of us that are like the admins of it. So shout out to Justin and Derek and Larissa. Hope you're listening to this episode.
Hey,
they were like, hey, things are popping up, and the whole chat with like about 20 plus of us is blowing up. There is a Meganium here. What is this Pokemon? And it's a shadow, and I know it because I know the game. It's like, oh, it's that Pokemon. You should get it. It's a good one. And for the first 3 or 4 days, it was just a blitz of new surprises, people getting really ecstatic about finding these Pokemon and seeing something new than just the same rat and Pidgey over and over and over again. And I loved it. I just loved how everybody was so excited about getting out there, finding new things, saying, hey, I found this. Cool. Let's share this. Go get that. It was so much fun. And I love how they did that.
And it really brought a lot more back people out. A lot of people had died off, and the release of Gen 2 really brought a lot of people back out for it.
Do you feel like they kind of blew their wad by throwing everything out there, though?
No. That was my favorite rollout by far, was having the babies first, having a short little nice babies, happy New Year, have something small while you're getting through the holidays, and then holidays are over, you have nothing left to do, boom, Gen 2, have at it. Awesome.
What do you say, Mike?
I don't know. I mean, I really enjoyed the way that they did Gen 2. I enjoyed the fact that we got to go out, like you said, and it was like Wild West. We were out till, 1, 2 o'clock in the morning catching stuff. But again, I have to go back to the limited resource thing. A doled rollout seems to make more sense in the long run.
And we will get to that because that's what they decided to do for Gen 3. I personally felt like it was a lot like Gen 1, where it's like, go crazy for a week and a half and now what? Because we kind of caught everything.
You gotta work to get all your candy and level everything up.
Well, then you need all your
hit
wonders.
all your nests.
Okay.
You need all your perfect IVs.
So the wonders
all
of
your 420s.
Yeah, you got to, and then you have to get all of your inverse. You have to get all of your super low CPs.
Now, see, these are a bunch of try-hard comments over here. I just wanted to complete my Pokedex. So for the average player, which is in this room is only me, so I'm actually in the minority here. I'm the weirdo. I only cared about completing my Pokedex, which I kind of wonder, based on the curve, how many people, because Chris, I know you just recently hit 40.
Yes.
I don't personally think they're ever going to raise the level cap.
I thought I read something that were talking about doing that, but that's kind of one of those nebulous things where it could have been a year or two down the road where they may do that. But I have a struggle figuring out what that would do.
Well, and that's the thing. I'm not sure they're going to raise the level cap so much as redistribute the levels. So if they add an extra 10 levels on, anybody who's at 40 will become 50, and they'll just retool all of that. So that way people can progress higher, but it doesn't mean you have to get another 50 million XP to max out, because it's going to take people like me still forever to get up to 40, so there's no benefit in gating in-game content like that if nobody ever sees it. You see this with a lot of your MMOs, where they create super high-end stuff that 1% of the player base gets, and that gates them from potential monetization opportunities, which is a thing they're not going to do.
Well, you mentioned MMO, and that got me a thought about this, because what I was thinking they would do is they would prorate the experience. If you are level 40, you're still earning experience.
Correct.
And you could be, I think it's 20 million to get to level 40, but you could have 30 million and still be level 40. Mm-hmm. If they roll out the level cap, what happens to the extra 10 million experience? Would they prorate it, or would they do a system like or some MMOs do, where if you've already reached the cap, you're still accumulating, and then you get an EXP bonus whenever they roll it out. So instead of earning, say, a 100 for catching a Pokemon, if you're already at that point, or you're not at that point yet, you earn 150, and so it helps you catch up faster.
Now, but do you think, and this also affects you guys because you're higher level than I am, do you think that the people who worked so hard to get up to 40 would feel slighted if they rewarded everybody who hadn't got to 40 like that?
I think that if everybody gets that bonus, it'll help.
Okay, what do you guys think?
I think that the people that get to 40 are ultimately hyper-competitive, and they just want something else to work towards.
Interesting. I would actually agree with that because, Kara, why do you want to get up to 40?
In case they increase the level cap.
There you
Well,
go.
precisely. I mean, come on, this is a tale as old as time. Why do we raid? To get better weapons. What do you need better weapons for? To raid with.
Yeah, we got to do the higher tier raids. For what? Better equipment. Yeah, great times. But after the Gen 2 officially rolled out, that's when we got the Pokemon Go Fest. Now, I was actually considering doing a semi-live recording about Go Fest after me, Kara, and Mike went up to Go Fest. And we knew it was going to be a disaster. We just did. We didn't know how bad of a disaster it was going to be. We'll gloss over all the other tragedy.
Hashtag Niantic things. Like, we knew it wasn't going to go great. Logistics isn't their jam.
Nope.
Aren't their jam? Isn't their jam. Is not their jam.
Okay.
It's their peanut butter. That's just...
So we got there, and this has been said a million times, so I'm not going to go over it too much. Cell service was awful. Nobody could log in. Nobody could catch anything. There was no competitive. Mike.
Shout out to Verizon. I actually had fairly decent connection most of the day.
See, I had Verizon.
Bro.
I had Verizon and I didn't.
Well, that's because you didn't have an iPhone.
Okay,
So
that is true.
It depends on your phone, and it wasn't just the network side. It was most of it was Niantic servers having the issue as well.
Hold on, Mike. You have an iPhone, you have Verizon, and your Team Mystic.
Yes.
Did we just become best friends?
I was curious while they were doing it how they actually ran their QA for this, because they knew the exact parameters of what they were getting into. And during a post-mortem, it turned out that there were just a ton of miscommunications, shocker, on both the carrier's side and Niantic's side. The way Niantic described it to the carriers are like, oh, there's going to be a stage, there's going to be presenters, and there's going to be merch booths. This is essentially a concert. We'll prioritize traffic like it'll be a concert. No, it's a brutally data-heavy event that'll have at least 20,000 people simultaneously trying to slam into these cell phone towers. So there was a failure all around. But what were your guys? Chris, you didn't make it up to that, correct?
No, I didn't get to make it, but one of the guys I mentioned earlier did go, and
so what were your two opinions of it? Because, again, hashtag Niantic things. We all knew it was going to be garbage going up there. What'd you think about it during the event? Not immediately after the event, because that is an important differentiation. So during those 8 hours where it was supposed to be 90 degrees and felt like 105, and we were surrounded by a bunch of irate fans...
Honestly, I mean, there was some people that were angry, and you could tell people were frustrated. But overall, I thought when things went bad and were going to hit the fan, because I knew they were going to hit the fan, I just didn't think it was going to be 3 minutes into getting in the gate. that I thought I was going to have to deal with some really obnoxious people. And for the most part, everyone seemed to, be like, look, this is what it is, and we're going to make the best of this day. And, oh, you happen to catch a Unknown. Oh, you happen to... And the little bits people were getting, they were celebrating those instead of focusing on all of the things. And it was really nice to see that, actually.
Yeah, it was a real brothers in arms situation. Like, yeah, we're in the but we're in the together. And yeah, I'll have to deal with that.
Yeah, I know, and her thing. There were a couple examples where people were overdoing it. Like you saw a video of someone trying to throw a water bottle at the presenter. They're literally trying to shoot the messenger.
I felt so bad for her. Like,
yeah.
I had never seen a person be so universally booed. Like, I had never seen a crowd turn like that before.
And she wasn't doing it. It's not like she went back to the Niantic servers and she's like, better open up some more ports. No, she's the presenter.
She better have gotten a freaking raise for bravery going out after the first time.
I remember, didn't the CEO come out on stage? He's like, my bad, guys. Actually, I think that's
And then they sent the dev out.
Yeah, they sent the dev out.
Oh, no.
When do you ever send the developer out to talk to the customer? Like, they're like, tell them what's wrong, and maybe they'll be okay with it. No, they're not going to be okay with it. You can say it's full of bees, and we're still going to be angry at you. Because we paid, what, $25 a ticket? $20 a ticket? Something like that?
Yeah,
I didn't.
It was 20 or 25.
Yeah, so we don't care if there are actual lava men in there chasing you down. Put the servers up. That's what everybody's feeling was. What was it? 3/4 of the way through the day, they knew how porked it was. It was like, okay, guys, we're giving you your money back, and we're giving you $100 in Pokecoins. And immediately, almost all the ill will, people are like, all right. And then as it drew to near the end, they're like, we're going to make a couple more changes too. First and foremost, everybody gets an Articuno, period. Second, everybody gets a Lugia, period. And we're extending the event. No, just everybody gets a Lugia, not the Articuno.
Yeah.
And we're extending the radius, 2 miles outside the park. We're extending the event time by 48 hours. We're giving everybody all the gold bonuses.
And those crazy catch rates. I mean, we went out the next day hitting those raids, and we were catching Articuno like they were Rattata.
The catch rates on the raids, they were a guaranteed catch if you finished the raid. So people were coming out with crazy amounts of Articunos and Lugias. I mean, they said this, and this blew my mind. Niantic's like, After everything went to hell during the event and we made all those concessions, then people started wandering around downtown Chicago and they were way less aggravated and they would meet up in groups, and that was what we wanted Pokemon Go Fest to be. It was what happened after. So we're trying to recapture the magic by making it bigger in 2018, by spreading things out more. I'm curious, because none of us got tickets to go up there. Sorry, Care Bear.
I tried. Not for lack of trying. And again, their server issues.
Yeah, that was mind-blowing. So I think this year's will be better, just because they had an event after Pokemon Go Fest in Japan that was very similar to Pokemon Go Fest, except they called it a safari event, I think. It was a Pikachu outbreak, basically. And there were way more people at that thing than Go Fest, but they coordinated the logistics way better. And they've had a bunch of these events since then, and I feel like nothing has been such a train wreck as that first Go Fest was.
They learn from their mistake.
Oh yeah, I would say that's the one great thing about Niantic is they keep making mistakes, but they keep owning them and learning from them. So they just keep getting better.
And with the Go Fest, they introduced what has become a very important function of Pokemon Go, and that'd be the legendary raids. And the legendary raids, I think, are the number one thing people do in groups currently. Now, I know all of you, actually, Mike and Kara, do both of you have all the legendaries?
Except for Regice.
Regice just came out. Oh, and I never caught Latias. I had a couple shots at him, but I was never able to knock one down.
I haven't caught any...
I know, right? It's a gape in my Pokedex that haunts me.
I don't have any legendaries since Rayquaza, because... I lost the pepper. Like, I don't do this competitively, and ever since they introduced research, which, again, a thing we'll get to, I know I'm going to have an opportunity to get legendaries much easier because with the introduction of research, way easier to get these things now.
Speaking to the research thing, that was a nice way for them to bring about a way for people who didn't necessarily get to raid in groups to still get shots at them, because you can work through the research by yourself.
Yeah, and we will get to that. But after the Pokemon Go Fest, I'm trying to think what the next major functionality was, because there was a big gap in between Go Fest and Gen 3, wasn't there?
Go Fest was in the summer. Gen 3 first rolled out with the ghost types during Halloween.
Okay,
That's
so
what it
3-ish months. They didn't introduce community days until Gen 3 was underway, correct?
Correct. First community day was in January.
Okay, so Gen 3, they tried something, a lot different. And this is, I'm going to want your guys' input a lot on this. Gen 3, they started doing legit tiered rollouts. I did not like this at all, but I would like to hear a more positive feedback before I start being sassy again. So, who's the most
assault as always?
Always. So, who would like to go first about? Do you remember what the first of the tier of Gen 3 that went out was? Because I truthfully don't remember what it was.
We didn't have
Did you get your Did you get your starters?
Yes, you had the starters. You had Puchaina.
Oh, so the starters and the trash.
Yeah, but they still. I want to say they had one good one, but we didn't get Baggin, and we didn't get Beldum, and we didn't get Trapinch right away. I think we got Aaron, if not in the first round, the second wave.
Do you think Aaron's, is Aaron good?
As a defender?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, all right.
Good gym Pokemon.
All right. But anyways, we did get Aaron in the first one because I remember we were driving around downtown and those things were everywhere.
Yeah.
So yeah, you are correct on that. What did you guys think of this tiered rollout? This, what was it, 15 to 30 Pokemon about every, 4 to 6 weeks?
Yeah, about thereabouts. I liked it. I thought it was a good idea because with the Gen 2 rollout where they just said, here you go, everything's open. That made sense for that generation because it was literally only about 100 Pokemon max that was new. Realistically, more like 80 because they didn't roll out all the legendaries and other stuff like that. But Gen 3 introduced over 150 more Pokemon, 140 more Pokemon. A lot more Pokemon than Gen 2 did. And to do that again would have caused a massive burnout because people just okay, I don't want to care about that Pokemon anymore. I'm going to catch this. But doing the tiered method, you're like, oh, I've got new stuff to work on. But I can still work on my decks for my previous entries while not feel like I have to catch all of Gen 3 right now. I could just catch what's rolled out. And then I can scale back and play how I want to play. Then a few weeks later, cool, the next wave has come out. Now I'm seeing more Pokemon that I want to get. I know we got the good ones that are coming. I can start stockpiling them while still filling my decks. It doesn't feel stagnant. The constant wave like that keeps it fresh.
Well, and Gen 3 also introduced the concept of more frequent events because prior to Gen 3, there were sometimes events like Halloween, we got ghosts, Valentine's Day, we got pink Pokemon. What other events were there? Do you guys?
Christmas hats.
Christmas hats. But they've done everything for the solstices as well.
That's true. They had the winter solstice one,
and then they started doing different type events like water events, ground event.
They had the Adventure Week for the rock types.
So, and we will get into that, but let's keep going around. And Mike, what do you think of this tiered rollout, this incremental?
Well, I mean, I feel like I'm starting to repeat myself here, but it's a limited resource, man.
Right.
You have to do it in tiers in order for it to work properly. And the fact that they did it at about 6 weeks was great for what you call a try-hard, because it was enough time to catch everything you needed to catch, get all your candies to get all your evolutions, and catch all your wonderfuls just in time for the next rollout so that you could do it again. And then the next rollout, and then you could do it again. It was a great way, like Chris was just saying, to keep it fresh and to keep you more on the edge of your seat with the game.
Interesting. Now, Kara, I'd like to get your opinion before I add mine, because your comment about the try-hard, I'm curious what your counter would be to someone like me who doesn't care so much about getting the wonderfuls, getting all that. You've mentioned multiple times it's a limited resource, but if all I care about is filling out my Pokedex, do you see how maybe I wouldn't agree with this approach so much?
Yes, but I also think that a game designer can't aim a game at a person who's not that interested in it.
Well, I am the...
To be fair.
It's true. I would consider myself the average consumer.
No.
No?
No.
No. Why not?
Because at this point, the game has been out long enough that most of the people that are still playing and still actively trying to get everything, and you can say other people just started playing the game and, whatever, but whether they're going to continue to play on and play with, through as it evolves or stop again shortly, like, I think you said you only play because of how much I play, and so I don't think you are the average consumer then, because most people who are playing want to play.
All right.
I get why they had to do the rollout like that with Gen 3, and like you said, with more Pokemon, things like that. That's what makes sense. That works for everyone, and honestly, it gets people playing more, which is why I didn't necessarily like it, which sounds kind of weird, but only because I feel like I already put so much time into the game that, like, when Gen 2 rolled out, I love having a free-for-all, just going super deep into it. But then I felt, because, you got to keep going at it. You can't just get one. All the ones that level up, you got to get all your candy and everything else. So when it was the slow rollout like that, I was still playing hard until the next set came out. And then it was like, okay. And then I never ended up getting a break until they all finally pretty much came out. And I'm like, okay, now I've spent and that's my own personal problem with prioritization, I guess. But it helps when it's not like that fueling your addiction.
Well, and I mean, some of the adjectives Kara used kind of played into my issue with it, because Kara talked about how she liked to go in deep and she rolled hard. And I felt like this was Pokemonus Interruptus. Like, I would play for about 4 days, be like, and now I've got everything, wait for 4 weeks. And 4 days, okay, I got everything again, because when I would tag along with you guys, you're like, let's play for 8 hours. And in 8 hours, I'm like, caught all the Pokemon, done? Cool. Glad I could be involved in this. Just as a quick side anecdote, somewhere between Gen 2 and Gen 3, I think, when we had wrapped everything up for the most part, you get to a point what could be called in-game content, because getting Stardust to level up your Pokemon becomes the new important thing, because they got to be strong enough to take gyms, etc., etc. And I complained about the Pokemon Go Plus when it was announced.
Yes, you did.
We now all own some version of this.
Yes, we do.
I love my button.
And yes, of Mike, Kara, and myself, I was actually the first one to get a Pokemon Go Plus. And it was so funny because about 3 months after the fact, I go, it's crazy how I got one of these things, Kara, and you immediately wanted one. You're like, I don't need it. And then I'm playing with it for a day and you're like, I need it.
I need it. I didn't need it until you had one, and now I need it.
Yeah, we drove out to, if you're not from the area, this means nothing to you. We drove 40 miles to get Kara one of the Pokemon Gachas, which is the automatic Yeah, we drove 40 miles one way, and she's like, it was not that fast. I'm like, really? Because I bought it for you. Let's check the old credit card receipt. Here's me buying mine on Saturday. Here's us driving out there on Sunday to get yours. She's like, okay, it was that fast. So it became a whole matter of, it's so strange that we pay the convenience fee so we don't have to grind. This ties both into the microtransactions thing from the podcast a few weeks ago, and it ties into the predatory nature of time versus money.
Well, for me, it's more, I use it more as a better way to multitask, because you can set it to only hit the Pokestops, and then it can hit the Pokestops while you're catching.
Can it hit Pokestops while you're catching?
Yes.
Okay.
As long as you hit the Pokestop first before you hit the Pokemon. Because
Okay.
it'll register, and while you're catching, you'll see your items pop up on the right side.
Do you still have the button, Chris? Or did you get a gotcha?
No, I still have my Go Plus.
Okay.
I have it with me as we speak, actually.
Because, nice. I'm so proud of you. When we found out there was an automated Pokemon Go Plus,
Oh, yeah, I know about that. I can't justify dropping $50 on that, which is...
I mean, it's an extra $10 over that thing.
Yeah.
Like, it's only $10 and you never have to actually use it. Like, they've streamlined the entire game at that point, which is baffling. And because of the way they instituted the Pokemon Go Plus, they can never patch out the Pokemon Gacha.
Yes.
Because there's no firmware associated with the Go Plus. It's just a peripheral. So, congratulations, Niantic. I'm curious if they'll ever make a Pokemon Go-er or something like that.
Well, they did with the, I don't know if it's jumping ahead, but with the Go Eevee and Go Pikachu,
Yes.
they have the Pokeball that you can
Yes.
use. I mean, that's your Go-er plus right there.
We'll get to that eventually. I'm curious, what I think they're going to do is they're going to make a Pokemon Go Plus, and it's going to give you some additional, like you're going to have a little switch so you can choose whether or not it's regular, great, or ultra, or I think they're going to give you some more options on it, and they'll put firmware associated with that, and then over the course of 6 months to a year, they'll start pulling an Apple and start hobbling the Pokemon Go Plus, and they know everybody who has it will want to get it anyways. This will incentivize the people who don't, and by the time they think everybody's converted over, they'll destroy support for the Pokemon Go Plus. That seems to me like the...
So pessimistic.
I mean, does it not seem like how they would do that kind of a thing?
Well, it
How
seems
long
like
has the Go been out? How long has the Go Plus been out?
That's been out almost since the game came out.
It was out at GoFest last
It
year.
was
before
definitely-
that, and
It was definitely before GoFest, I know
it was
that,
definitely
but it just seems like that should have been something they would have hinted at or done by now. But they have done no changes to that despite all the changes they made to the game.
They haven't now, and we'll talk about this when we get nearer to the end because I'm real curious. I'm curious how much more functionality, what their plans for the future are, but that'll be near the end. Mike, you look like you had something to say about the whole, when I was giving my pessimistic approach to the Pokemon Go Plus.
No.
Okay, never mind then. Great. I just think that is not an unrealistic way that Niantic could axe any kind of third-party peripheral by tying a firmware to their proprietary peripheral.
Oh, the one thing I was going to say was that it just doesn't seem to be within their business model currently because they don't seem to be interested in expanding their capability that much. Like we were talking earlier about the social aspects that they can do to the game, but they're already pointing people to other social devices like go use Facebook or go use Twitter to find people. They don't want to add extra functionality in game. I think they want to get what they have on lock, and then once they have that, they're happy with people using any kind of add-on on top of that.
See, I think a lot of that, just from what we've seen at GoFest and from their social media aspects, I think a lot of that is them trying to take as much burden off themselves as possible. I do think once they have a solid foundation, then they'll be much more inclined to be like, well, instead of Discord, why not use ours? Because I think they have been burned by being too ambitious too quick before. I think they're doing a lot better about building up fundamentals before they add additional functionality on, personally.
I don't see why they would do it because I don't know how they would make any money off of it.
How they would make any money off of...
Their own like social network type thing, like you're talking about.
Well, I would think that the big thing about if they introduce their own social network is that there would be some kind of incentive that they would have if you have like a core rating group or people as you get up higher to best friends or whatever, there would be something bonus you can get out of that. And then maybe if you have a core rating group, they could introduce an item, either something you can get off a Pokestop or something you can buy, that if you're rating with your best friends and you use this item for 30 minutes, it gets you an increased catch rate for all of your best friends in that group. Like, I think they will introduce an item that will directly benefit people with higher levels of friendship if you're rating with them.
Now that I can certainly see happening just because we see it in most other games that have a similar aspect. Like I know that for a fact that they have banners that you can run in Destiny where if you're running with a group of friends, your friends get a buff. And if they're running their banner as well, you get a buff, so you help each other out.
Mm-hmm. So you are asking how they could monetize it. Basically, they have created the behavior. They have given a reason for people to do it currently because now you can trade and get Pokemon that you didn't have, or you can send gifts and get Alolan eggs for other variants of Pokemon you don't have. Once they have everybody doing it, then you introduce a monetization possibility. And that's what I would think they would do, personally. Again, I'm not trying to be pessimistic here. I'm trying to look at it from a free-to-play developer standpoint. And I think that's how they would do it.
Well, I think the only way to look at something from a business standpoint is to look at it pessimistically, but that's neither here nor there.
Heyo. So anyways, while they were rolling out Gen 3, we also got the introduction of community days and longer events. Now, this was something I personally thought was an inevitability because as of Gen 7, I think the core games are currently on, we're up to over 700 Pokemon? 800?
Over 800.
Over 800. There was no possible way that they were going to have Pokemon Go and not introduce like Kanto Week or Johto Week. Because when you have a possible 800 Pokemon to catch, there is no possible way. There's going to be a point where Rattatas become difficult to find because you have 7 different versions of Rattata out there.
But again, that's why everyone goes so balls to the wall whenever ones first come out, because they are more prolific at the very beginning of when they release something. So you have a higher chance of getting it then. So...
But you do still have to make the game accessible to new people, because while there might be somebody who's been in it since the beginning...
Well, yeah, you can still get them, but that's the benefit to being in the game as opposed to joining later. You can still get them, it's just harder. I mean, I know it's inevitable. They had to introduce something like that. I agree with you. But at the same time, you get a lot more whenever they first come out as well.
That's true. Sometimes, though, and we've seen this with a frequent contributor to the show, Brent, he didn't have a smartphone for years, and then he got one when Gen 3 came out, I think. I remember him being excited that he found an Oddish.
It was cute.
It was adorable. He's like, oh my god, an Oddish. What?
Just wait till it evolves to a Blossom.
Oh, man. Oh, God.
It's so cute.
So we started seeing more events like that, and we're seeing a lot of them more frequently. I feel like there's almost an event, a week-long event, like what, once a month at this point?
More frequent than that. We just had Adventure Week end, and then we had literally one day off, and then they rolled out
Water Festival?
Yeah, the Water Festival, which technically ended, but I'm still getting quests for field research.
I'm still getting lots of things popping up.
Yeah,
too.
but the Pokemon themselves are gone.
Yeah, all right. You look like you had something, Mike.
I was in agreement with Chris.
All right. And we also got community days, which are what, 3-hour windows?
3-hour windows once a month.
3-hour windows once a month where there is a tremendously increased spawn rate of a particular Pokemon. The first one was Dratini, and the most recent one... The first one was
Pikachu in January. Then we had
Was it?
Dratini in February.
Oh, it was the Surf and Pikachu,
Surf and
right.
Pikachu.
Okay. And then the most recent one was Larvitar.
Yes.
And there were shiny Pikachus, right?
That's the
Yes.
key point with Community Day. The new one they roll out, it has a shiny form and it has a
Shiny.
unique move.
I'm about to say, I always thought that the key point was more the move over the shiny.
No,
Would you say-
everyone wants the shiny.
Shiny.
Everyone's a shiny
Shiny.
because the Pikachu had Surf, which
Yep.
was a unique move for it, which made little sense, much like how Mareep had Dragon Pulse.
Well, the Pikachu one made sense only because in Pokemon Yellow you could get a Surf and Pikachu. And in, I think that the Mega form of Mareep has Dragon Pulse. For Dratini, his was Draco Meteor,
Yes.
which is a move introduced way later in the series.
Yep.
And there have been there was a Charmander one, there's going to be a Squirtle one.
Yep.
Have I missed any?
Bulbasaur.
Bulbasaur had, what was its
Frenzy
move?
Plant, an awesome move.
I think that move was also introduced way later.
Yes.
Some of the shinies are cooler than others. For example, the Charmander shiny, awesome. The Larvitar shiny,
The Pupitar shiny's cool.
the
He's so purple.
The Pupitar one's awesome. But I remember because Kara and Mike went to Community Day. I couldn't make it out because I had something going on. And I went up to Taco Bell to get some lunch. Like, oh, while I'm waiting in line, I'll pull up Pokemon Go. Pull it up, there's 6 Larvitars there. I'm like, ooh. So I click the first one and my food's coming out. And I look back, I go, why does this thing look wrong? So I catch it and it's a shiny. I'm like, oh, first one, great. I caught 6 there. The first one and the 5th one were shiny.
Nice.
So I only caught 6 in Community Day, and 2 of them were shiny. And I comment to Kara, I go, this just looks like a bootleg Larvitar. Like, it doesn't even look that great. It just looks like they messed up the colors in their Chinese production run.
That's the case for like almost all the base ones.
Yeah, I remember that I thought that the Bulbasaur kind of looked like a zombie.
Yep.
Those dead eyes. Those are not great.
Oh, man.
Ugh, so
Well,
creepy.
you want dead eyes, get a shiny Aaron.
Yeah, right.
I
Or Duskull.
I still don't have a shiny
I
Duskull.
don't have either, but they're both creepy.
Oh, yeah.
I think one thing that's important to note with the community days and stuff too, and the way Niantic has evolved and changed things in the past over time, is the security issues and things like that. With our first community day with Pikachu, the servers and bots were still up, so we had people in our groups that were part of paid servers that would tell us that, oh, here's a shiny, or here's 100%, here's 100% this, here's that. You could all go after and try and get 100% shiny, which was really awesome. So one thing that they've really changed and cracked down on is, and I get spoofers and things like that, but the bots were nice. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, I do miss that about Gen 2.
One thing that I thought was funny, though, is that while the bots were gone, this last community day for Larvitar had a huge turnout in my area. We had, I can't tell how many people were walking up and down Main Street. There were 2 100 IV Larvitars out there, and I got them both. And everybody was like, hey, did you get the 100%? It's over there by the courthouse, or it's over there by the apartments. And you just see a wave of people walking or running to get to it before it disappears.
Oh, see, that would be nice. I haven't encountered anything like that.
It was
yet.
fun.
That
I
would
really
be,
enjoyed that community day.
if I could get it as a real life interaction, I wouldn't be so bummed about everything else going on.
Everybody was so chill too. We're like, sweet, thanks for that. I got it. And people were high-fiving each other like, sweet, what are you going to do with it? I'm going to evolve it now, or I'm going to wait for the end of the day to get the special move. And it was just the whole community day. Even though it's just 3 hours, it really felt like the community was playing, and I loved it.
Aw, that's nice. So we'll talk about the most recent functionality. Well, I mean, it's nice that it actually feels like a community thing, as opposed to sometimes it's more like, I deal with these chuds because I have to.
I was going to say, really, I have to agree with that. I have not had an interaction like that on community days yet, so that would be a nice change of pace.
It might be an area situation because, aside from my earlier gripe about raids, the raiding community in my area has been awesome. Everybody's been really chill. We don't have anybody reaching over your shoulder like, what are you doing? We've instead of people asking, hey, I'm having trouble catching this one. Do you mind trying for me?
Wow.
And I was able, because I'm known for being able to hit excellent throws pretty consistently. So I helped a guy get an excellent throw on Zapdos or another one for field research.
Oh.
So I helped him with that, which was nice. And everybody was chill about it. It's like, sweet, thanks for helping me with that. Or, cool, let's go do this together. There's a lot of camaraderie in that, at least in my area. But I've heard stories about over here on this side of the river where it's a little more cutthroat, a little more creepy.
Sometimes.
It just depends on where you are, and that's with everything over here. I feel. I feel like everything in a large metropolitan area, really.
There's some raids we've been to where it's been like 30 people there, and like people get weirdly standoffish. It's like, oh, it's that guy. Guys, we're all catching invisible monsters. Who cares? My God. So we'll touch on 2 more things before we get into final thoughts. The first one is the introduction of research. This was awesome. I thought that this was one of the best things they've introduced since they introduced Pokemon Go.
It needed it for so long.
Yeah. It needed something to give you purpose because there was no direction in this game other than catch 'em all. This gave you daily tasks that you could perform with an actual tangible outcome. When you complete 7 daily tasks, it allows you access to try to catch a legendary Pokemon. And this legendary Pokemon, you're allowed to use berries and different kinds of Pokeballs. So it's way easier than, let's say, if you catch one at a raid, you have, 12 chances if you get lucky with event balls. In this one, you can use a gold raspberry and an ultra ball. I have yet to not catch.
I was going to say, I haven't looked up the stats either, but I think the catch rates are a lot higher for them as well.
I think it has a 0% run chance, but I haven't confirmed it. All I know is I had a real hard time catching an Articuno once because I didn't want to use certain berries because I knew Community Day was coming up. I wasted 16 balls at it before I caught it.
Wow.
But I caught it.
Okay, that's got to be a 0% then.
Yeah.
Well, it doesn't have to be because I've heard people throwing, back when they'd find like even a Blissey or a Charizard or something like that, and out in the wild, they'd be like, oh, it took me like, no joke, 40 balls to try and get this thing. So sometimes people just have that luck of things not running as well. That's not me, but I've heard of people having that luck.
And the other side of the research, in addition to the daily tasks, they introduced special research, where it was a series of 8 tiers, where this was really interesting as somebody who's interested in game design. Each tier basically gave you 3 tasks that made you learn how to play the game better. So one of the tiers might have use some berries or do a curveball. So you couldn't get through the tier until you figured out how to do a curveball.
I'm sorry. The way you said do a curveball, all I could hear was do a barrel roll.
You're looking more like your father. Anyways. So I thought that was really interesting because how many times did you have people ask you, why did you just get a great throw? I know even when I was raiding with some guys at my last job, I would get a great throw. I'd be like, how'd you do that? Like, there was no explanation in the game whatsoever for this stuff. So it kind of forced you to learn it, which I thought was nice.
Yes, it absolutely was necessary. And I liked how the tier structure, like you said, it taught you the mechanics of the game. Because I inadvertently learned how to throw a curve just randomly about a year into the game.
I learned, this is funny actually, a guy that we know, I had no idea how to throw a good curveball because they don't teach you how to do this. Some guy that both Kara and Mike know, I saw him sitting there going, da-da-da-da-da, like, what are you doing, Rain Man? Because he was nailing these curveballs. And he's like, oh yeah, if you spin it and you do it over here, you're always going to hit. What? And I tried it. Oh my God, this actually works. But because they forced you to do it, because they had an actual amazing incentivized payoff for this, at the end of the special research, you got Mew, a mythical Pokemon. So
some things force you to do it, like going for X-Raid passes and not getting any Mewtwo's and being like, all right, I got to learn how to excellent curveball in order to get this beast.
Well, and as... Yeah, how many do you have, Chris?
I only have one.
Okay. And
we all have one.
Hooray!
That was beautiful harmony.
Thank you.
Oh, indeed.
We did gloss over that, and this is it's very quick. If you raid sponsored gyms, there's a chance you could get an EX pass.
It's not just sponsored gyms. They really opened it up to a lot of parks and a lot of other places in the more recent.
Yeah, Coded Parks have it. I don't know the full details of it, but we have one memory.
Gotcha.
It's a lot more than when it first came out.
Anyways, you get a chance to get these special passes, and these special passes set a time in the future that you can go and have an EX raid, which up to this point has only been Mewtwo. Now, do you guys think there will ever be another EX raid?
I don't know, only because there's been nothing out there that's like Mewtwo, except for maybe Deoxys, which is a Gen 3 one. But
that's a mythical.
Exactly. In which case, since they rolled out this mythical research now, I expect that anything that's beyond or typical legendary is going to be in that method and not through EX.
Right, so I don't think they're ever going to get rid of it, but I think they kind of painted themselves into a corner with this one. I think originally they wanted to have the EX raids for more of the mystical Pokemon, but Pokemon Go Fest went so bad that they're like, nope, it's just legendary, just out there. So I personally don't think we'll ever see another EX raid, in my opinion. You guys got any? I know you're mostly earlier gen, so you can't speak to later generations. Like, I don't think...
Well, one thing I'm curious about is there's quite a few number of Pokemon, and I'm terrible with a lot of the names of them, because we haven't talked about them in so long, but there's still Gen 1, 2, and 3 Pokemons that have not come out. Like, I know Celebi's one.
Celebi's Gen 2.
That's
all of Gen 1 is out.
All of Gen 1 is out with Mewtwo. That was the only one that Mew and Mewtwo. Yeah, Mew and Mewtwo were the only ones we were missing there. But we still have multiple Gen 2 and 3.
Only one Gen 2 isn't out, and that's Smeagol, and that's because... Smeargle?
Smeargle.
It's
the one with the
painter
painter
one. It's because they don't know how to build him, because his moveset was so weird in the game.
Well, it was like Ditto, but they figured something out to do with Ditto. I just feel like they keep expanding out further generations. Like they took so long to do something with Ditto and things like that. I feel like they could use to focus.
I think they're saving Smeargle for another event.
I do too. I figured it'd be something like Ditto or that. But I'm just saying they could use some of those as X-Raids or mythical research.
The X-Raid for a Smeargle, though?
Yeah. I mean, that's like a 2-star raid.
Yeah,
exactly.
Right.
I think for most of the gens, and it'll get a little wonky as it get into later gens, special research will always be mythical Pokemon. You got Celebi in Gen 2, in Gen 3 at Jirachi, in Gen 4 you had Gen 3 was also Deoxys.
Correct.
So right there, that's 2 mythical things right there. Deoxys could theoretically be an EX raid, like you said earlier.
That'd be my guess for what they would do. It would be that one.
But then you can get multiple, which goes against what the mythical's supposed to be. So I don't know.
But that's how it's made in the game. I mean, Deoxys had 3 forms in the game.
Yeah, but that was with an item.
Yeah. In which case, then That could
They
be
have-
something else which they could do, which be getting into the latter topic about our expectations, because when they get to Gen 4, that's going to open up a whole bunch of things for them to do.
Yes. So
Oh, we totally skipped over that where you needed the special items for the evolutions,
Yes.
like the Steelix and everything, and how giant
I
of
was-
a pain it was to get them in the beginning.
Until they introduced the 1-day streaks. You had said that the
yeah.
other thing was the first, the research
Oh,
was the
right.
first thing to do that, but really the 7-day streaks were the first thing to do something like that, which was a hint at what we wanted, but I think no one was super excited about it, except that it was a way to get an item, a special evolution item on your 7-day streak, but beyond that, we're like, but this could be so much more.
And even when they introduced the streaks, the 7-day streak didn't guarantee a special item. That came
Not until
after,
later, yeah.
right? And then because they never backdated it to the first gen, they never said, "Oh, by the way, now you have to use stones for Gen 1." There was only like 6 or 7 in Gen 2 that needed the items. So after you got them, and there's none in Gen 3. So after you got them, you're like, now what? I got 7 dragon scales, and I'll never use these again. And Kingdra isn't that great.
Unfortunately,
So,
not.
anyways, that is a good point. The streaks were introduced where they're like, here's a stopgap. And like, okay, we already don't care. Cool. But anyways, let's talk about the most recent functionality before we get into, because we have filled up our entire time already. The most recent functionality is the social functionality, which allows you to both add friends, trade, and send gifts to your friends. This is brand new. And it took them so long because they had to figure out how it wouldn't completely break the game. They did this
And how people couldn't make money off of it.
also that.
There was that. Yes, that was a big one.
So the two things they introduced were almost a crippling amount of Stardust you needed for certain trades. Shinies and legendaries are the big ones. We've tested this, and even if you're only a 1-heart friend, if it's not shiny or legendary, like I got a Alolan Meowth from somebody just today, 20,000 Stardust with a 1-heart. That's not bad, as opposed to 1 million for a legendary for somebody you've never met before.
And you didn't have to walk this special 7k Alolan egg amount to
Yeah.
catch it. So.
That was pretty great. And you can only trade them once, which is a big deal because it means you can't Pony Express it across the country.
Yeah, we can't get somebody to send us a Kangaskhan all the way from Australia.
Yep. So I'm actually very happy with how they've implemented this.
I am as well.
What do you guys think?
I am as well. I think it's a lot of good things. I think they're only going to use it to build on further. My only issue with it, again, has been, again, hashtag Niantic things, is that everyone else keeps telling me our friend meter only takes, it starts out, you become friends, and it's 6 days. Interact with this friend for 6 more days, and you'll go up a level. Well, on all their screens, our days are going down. On my screen, the days are not going down. So I'm hoping it's just an error, and my friendship level's gonna boost it on that 6th day. But I'm a little worried it's only gonna boost for them and not for me.
So that's a quick question I have. If I send a gift to, say, you, Chris, when you open it, does it up both of our friendship levels?
I don't think so.
I
I think it
don't
only. Oh, I think it only affects the recipient. So
Does it affect the recipient or the sender? So if I send you a gift and you open it, does that up my friendship with you or your friendship with me?
I think it's my friendship with you because I only see the little heart fill in after I open the gift from someone.
Right.
Not when they open they're my gift.
So the idea, you kind of got a prisoner's dilemma thing going
Exactly.
around here, because theoretically I could up my friendship with everybody by them just sending me stuff, but nobody will send me stuff if I don't send them stuff.
Exactly.
Huh.
Which I'm not too against though. I mean,
No.
realistically,
well, and
one
the-
thing about the gifts though is they're giving you a lot of items. I mean, I've got 30 peanuts out of one gift.
Wow.
Well, I
Which is
have
ridiculous.
not gotten things like that.
Yes.
Yeah, mine's been 5 pineapples.
Yeah.
Well, I think they've finally scaled it down because I know they low-key scaled it back from where you could get 20 gifts in your inventory to only have 5 in your inventory. And you can only open 20 gifts in a day and other fun stuff like that. So
All right. I'm confident with how they've done this. I know I've started sending gifts to people that I know are going to the Pokemon Go Fest up here in July. I'm like, you are my friend now. Click, 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 click. But I do like how...
I'm gonna need a Corsola.
Yeah, I'm going to need a Corsola, and I'm going to need a Kangaskhan, and I'm going to need never mind. Just here's my list, best friend. Anyways, I like how everybody's checking their friend meters now. I do like how they made it so you can only send one gift per day, though. They've really limited the grind, which I personally like. Anyways, we're already at an hour, so let's go ahead and we won't make it super elevator pitchy, so you don't have to do it all in one breath, but let's go around and say what we hope for the next year, because they've made enormous progress in the last year of this to me. The first year, they were just trying to kind of figure it out. It feels like they've made huge strides in the last year. So let's start with you, Kara.
One thing I don't know that it's going to happen, but I'd really like to see is more localized events. Instead of having Pokemon Go Fest and be one giant day in Chicago, have a lot more specific meetup days and times for, each big city in a surrounding area or something like that for the community to get together and have a lot more smaller local things. Because I believe, and what I think might actually happen with that is it's like Dortmund, or I can't remember the name, but they did all the mall events over in Japan, and they did them at different malls where it's just people could come and go. It didn't require a ticket, things like that. And that mall actually bought out a lot of the malls here in the U.S. So I'm wondering if that kind of mall event thing isn't going to start coming to our area.
Yeah, I could see that. Mike.
For me, the main thing I want to see is trainer battles. That's the one thing that I think that I would like the game to have.
What would the benefit of trainer battles be?
Power up your Pokemon.
What I think
as a side, say you don't want to use it, do the Stardust Candies thing, you can power them up by battling against other people. That was how I'd like to see it rolled out.
I think they are going to try and combine that with the Let's Go Eevee, Let's Go Pikachu, personally. I think that was the reason why the friends list came out here, was so that way you can interact with your same friends list in the Switch game. And I think that's where we're going to see the P-on-P battling happen, personally. I could be wrong. Maybe I think it's going to be more integrated than it is, but that's kind of my hope there.
I don't know. For the longest time, I was worried it was never going to come out, but for the longest time, I was also worried we were never going to see trading, and now it's here.
It's here!
It's here.
That is a big surprise. I really thought we'd never see trading.
Yeah, I think actually in the first episode that we recorded for Pokemon Go, trading was one of the things that we mentioned that we wanted to see in the future, and you said it'll never happen.
We have hope.
I didn't think it would. It took them a year and a half since we recorded that, so I feel relatively vindicated here. Now, Don't get me wrong, it's not never, but it took long enough, but they delivered it in a good way. So, you know what? I'm fine being wrong on this.
You said a delayed game will eventually be good, but a rushed game will be forever bad.
Yeah, that was something that Miyamoto famously said once.
There we go.
Indeed.
Chris.
Well, aside from the obvious bring on Gen 4, more of the weekly and bi-weekly events. Like I said earlier, we had the Adventure Week, and then we had like one day of downtime where it's just, here's regular Pokemon again, and then, another event. And I think they're increasing that. I want to see that even further increased to where you have new things coming around every week. It'll keep you going while not getting burnt out.
I am interested to see more of the expansion of the functionality that they've been introducing. Like, I'd be really interested to see in that social aspect. I'd be really interested to see how they tie into mainline Pokemon games. Like, I really want to see how the Pokemon Go interacts with Pokemon Let's Go. I'm morbidly curious because I already have a lot of pessimism about how all that's going to work. I'm curious if it's going to heavily incentivize people who play Pokemon Go. And will that cause more people to play Pokemon Go, or will that cause less people to play Pokemon Let's Go because they don't play Pokemon Go? I also don't know what the Venn diagram is of people who play Pokemon Let's Go who don't play Pokemon Go.
I mean, I know people that are going to buy a Switch just to play it.
Me too.
Now, don't you have a Switch? Oh, you know people, sorry.
Yes.
I thought I was about to say, so confused.
I mean, I'm going to buy a Switch to play it.
So, I'm interested to see where they go. I think that they're doing a lot better with the communication. I do think, personally, they need to slow down with how they're rolling out gens, and they need to focus more on events, because at the rate they're going to be all caught up with the games before a new generation comes out. And then what? They've gone through 3 generations in between the time that
I can see it now. They're going to catch up, and then we're finally going to get the massive MMORPG Pokemon game that will just print money.
No, they're just
It's
gonna.
just the Game of Thrones of Pokemon.
That's
Yes.
what I was gonna say. They're gonna like predict the next generation of Pokemon, and then the actual one's gonna come out, and then George R.R. Martin's gonna be like, "That's not what I wrote," and it'll all be confusing. So, any last notes before we go ahead and wrap this up?
Let's go play Pokemon.
Yes.
Yeah.
Ugh. Anyway.
Don't be
All right. Kara, thank you very much for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Mike, thank you very much for coming on and editing this.
Yeah, certainly.
And Chris, thank you very much for coming on.
Always a pleasure.
So, what did you think of Pokemon Go and where it's come from in the last 2 years?
Dude, that was an excellent opportunity to say, what do you think of Pokemon Go and where it's a-going?
Where it's come from and where did it go? Where did it come from? Pokemon
Pokemon.
Joe. That's right. Brought it home. That was the best way to do this before we went on break. Because, important note, this is the last episode we're going to be putting out till late August, early September-ish. So, do. So, let us know what you thought of this episode. Let us know what you want to see when it comes back. Give us your thoughts on where you hope Pokemon Go is going. I'm not making this joke again. But until next time, my name is Josh, and this is Co-Opinions.